And we are live.
Good afternoon, everyone. This meeting of the General Government Committee is being held electronically and live streamed on the town's website. All members of council in attendance are participating by audio and video teleconference, and town staff are available throughout the meeting if council members have any questions on the agenda. For members of the public watching from home, please bear with us if we encounter any technical difficulties throughout the meeting. I'll now call this meeting to order. We will begin with our land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home of the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support, truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action in acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. I'll now ask if there's any disclosures of community interest. Seeing none, I'll need a motion to move the adoption of minutes from December 12th, 2022. We have Councillor Tyler Morin. Any questions, comments? Call the vote then. All in favor? Opposed? And that passes. Due to timing, we're going to move item 5.1, the discussion with the Integrity Commissioner, to the top of the agenda. So we'll start with Director Cooper with the introduction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to start by introducing Megan Cowan. She has recently become the point person for the town for integrity services from Airden Burles. So today we have the Integrity Commissioner's annual report on the agenda, which is typically just an information report. Usually the Integrity Commissioner isn't asked to attend, but because Megan is going to be a new face for us and because there's a little bit more substance on this year's report than we're used to, I thought it would be a good idea to have her with us today just in case council has any questions. So I don't think I'll say much more than that, but welcome Megan, and she's here to answer any questions that you might have. And Megan, I think maybe just may want to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cooper, and thank you, your worship and members of council. Nice to be here today and to meet you all. I will be speaking today about our annual report, but then as you know, we will be having an in-depth training session later this week where I'll be with you as well at that time. Your Honor, I noticed your hand is up. Is that a preliminary question or?
Well, actually, I just realized, thank you, Ms. Cowan, that do I have a pecuniary interest since I am the one named in the complaint?
I think we're going to go to the clerk on that one.
Sure, thank you. This is just an information report, Mr. Mayor. There's no decisions being made today. So I mean, not that I'm the authority on this, but I would suggest to you that you don't have a pecuniary interest in just listening to this item and receiving it for information.
Okay, I'll keep my hand up for questions after. Thank you.
Okay,
thank you. Thank you. My report is anonymized, so there's no reference to any details of any complainant or respondent in it in these matters. To start out then, my presentation pertains to the annual report for the 2022 year. Our report is dated February 6th, and this is the fourth report that our firm, Airden Burles, has presented since the appointment as Integrity Commissioner. I'm aware that you have had training sessions and interactions with my partner and my colleague, John Mascaron. He is still actively involved in Integrity Commissioner matters, and a lot of his work relates to advice-giving functions. As Ms. Cooper has indicated, I have taken on the mantle of the head of the investigatory process. So as you know, as Integrity Commissioner, we do act in both an advisory services feature as well as an investigatory services feature. And so therefore, any complaints made under the Code of Conduct come to me first as a vetting point, and then they may be assigned to one of a number of our colleagues at the firm who assist with these types of work and files. So you'll have the report in front of you. It details our functions as Integrity Commissioner as appointed by Council by way of bylaw number 12-2019. And in providing this annual report, we are doing so pursuant to section 14.3 of the town's Code of Conduct. The report covers essentially two main areas. Number one is with respect to our advice giving function, and number two is with respect to our investigatory function. And I'm going to speak briefly about both of these areas as detailed in the report, and then I'll open the floor to any questions that may arise from this. So briefly, our office was not consulted by any members of council or town staff with respect to any advice for any matter last year during 2022, nor were there any applications made under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. With respect to complaints made to our office, our report summarizes three. The first being an ongoing matter before the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario that was filed in May of 2021. And proceedings were commenced naming the town and Aird and Burles as respondents. And the application alleged discrimination on the basis of an enumerated ground. We understand since then that in December of 2022, the Human Rights Tribunal forwarded a request for additional submissions. And we understand that the applicant in that matter has requested additional time to submit those submissions. So that's the Human Rights Tribunal matter. There are two other complaints made during this period of time under the municipality's code of conduct. The first being complaint 2019-03. This complaint was from 2019, however, it was resubmitted for a reconsideration. And a brief background, I think, might assist to give some clarity on this, and councillors may or may not remember some of the circumstances with respect to the code's limitation period. But this complaint dealt with the alleged contraventions that took place beyond the former code's former 6-week limitation period.
Allegations.
Yes, our office dismissed the complaint on the authority that we had no jurisdiction to act because the complaint was made outside of the time limits prescribed by the code's limitation period. The town subsequently amended the code's limitation period in September 2020. And on that basis, we received a further request from the same complainant to refile the complaint and reopen it, given the new code of conduct. Now, given the ongoing Human Rights Tribunal matter, our office delegated our powers and duties as Integrity Commissioner to Ms. Suzanne Craig. She's a very well-known and respected Integrity Commissioner here in Ontario. And because on this basis, she was delegated with authority to address this resubmitted complaint. So the 2019 complaint resubmitted. Ms. Craig undertook an investigation and determined that the complaint should not be governed retroactively by the municipality's updated code of conduct, and she dismissed the complaint. Finally, the final matter that we received was another complaint in 2022. This is labeled complaint 2022-01. It pertains to an allegation with respect to abuse of influence. And as a result of the ongoing Human Rights Tribunal matter, which contains similar allegations, we have suspended that complaint pursuant to the town's code of conduct and the Municipal Act. That is a brief synopsis of all of our functions and duties as undertaken in the year 2022. Our report also details a cost outline of fees incurred with respect to our services. And finally, as I mentioned before, we will be undertaking a training session this Thursday. Myself and my colleague John Pappas will present to members of council, both on the Integrity Commissioner Code of Conduct process, as well as the process under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. That is my presentation, and I do welcome any questions that may have arisen from it.
Thank you for your presentation, Mayor Collier.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Cowan. I said alleged because you said a complaint about events that took place, and they were alleged to have taken place.
Pardon me,
So-
your worship. I agree. If I made any slip of tongue, it is
That's okay.
entirely correct. This complaint was about allegations, and it was dismissed as being out of time. You're correct.
That's fine. I just wonder, the Human Rights Tribunal case, you missed one thing. There was a request to add me personally and an additional complaint filed. Is that correct?
That is correct to our knowledge. Yes.
And that was after the election.
That's my understanding, yes.
So you suspended another complaint came to you afterwards and you suspended it. What happens to that suspended complaint once the HRTO has finished their investigation and makes their ruling?
The timeline is somewhat different. The complaint came in first, and then we understood that the amendment to the HRTO proceeding happened. And while we were undertaking a review, when we learned of this, we were required to suspend, given that there was another proceeding that addressed the same or substantially same features. We await the results of that tribunal matter. Our hands are tied while another matter containing the same allegations moves forward.
I understand, that's what I said, but what happens after that moves forward? We still have this suspended. You haven't dismissed the current complaint. It's suspended.
Correct.
So what happens to it after the Human Rights Tribunal, who the complainant has tried to add this second complaint to the HRTO proceeding? If they rule on it, what happens to the suspended complaint now?
We would have to make a determination at that time. I don't want to prejudge or pre-conclude the matter in any way. The matter would be before us again. The complainant would advise that the other matter has been dealt with, and the complainant would request to reinitiate their complaint, at which time we'd undertake a review pursuant to our standard intake process.
So if the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario turns down this complaint, says there has been no human rights violation, you are going to reach out to the complainant and ask them to resubmit the complaint again?
We will not do so. We will be advised of the matter by the complainant.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. I thought that's what you said. And I appreciate you including the costs for 2022, but do you have the costs that this one single complaint through all the steps has cost this town since it was first filed? The cumulative total?
Which matter do you request, Your Worship?
Well, the original complaint that came in against me, they're all by the same person that accused me of something that the IC turned down because it was outside the time period. That decision was then appealed to the ombudsman, which we had to defend, and that was turned down, and that's now been appealed to the Human Rights Tribunal that we also have to defend. And now there's been another complaint, addition to the original complaint, that's been suspended, and now you're here today, which I'm sure you're not here out of the goodness of your heart. We're paying you. So I want to know, what is the total of this single complaint so far, please? I see Ms. Cooper, Chair. Perhaps you have the answer.
And I would suggest that I seek Ms. Cooper's input on this matter.
Dr. Cooper?
Thank you. Yeah, I just think maybe I might be a little bit better positioned to respond to this. So just because we have incurred a range of costs, and not just from Airden Burles. So just, Mr. Mayor, to your question, there's a number of sort of parallel processes that are taking place. It's not one complaint. There are a number of complaints that are distinct from one another, but yes, interrelated. And we've incurred costs in relation to Integrity Commissioner services and legal services from a number of different firms in relation to each of these complaints, the cumulative total of which is somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000 to date.
I know last time I asked this, it was $38,000. So this person's quest to try and discredit me somehow has now cost taxpayers $60,000.
Chair, excuse me, Mayor, we're going to keep it to the questions to the Integrity Commissioner.
So I guess my next question is, I mean, is there anything that we can do to stop? You know what? It's not fair for this one. It'll have to be when we review our processes after the fact. I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Does any of the members of the committee have any questions for Ms. Cowan? Councillor Henry.
Hi, can you hear me? Because my earphones are not working. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I do apologize. So I just wanted to ask a few questions here. So, and I'm trying to be cautious in how I word this. So the complaint was not dismissed because it was false, correct?
May I ask which complaint you were referring to, Councillor Henry?
I'm just talking because I'm trying to catch up here. I'm a new counselor, so I'm trying to catch up. The other counselors know things that I don't, and I'm just trying to catch up on this particular file. With regards to the complaint that the mayor was speaking to, it wasn't dismissed because it was false. It hasn't come to fruition to find out if it's true or false or anything. We just don't know because it never got to go through the process, correct?
If you're speaking about complaint 2022-01, which was filed with our office this year, that complaint has been suspended, meaning that we've undertaken no investigation because there's another matter proceeding which deals with the same substance of allegations. So we've made no final determination with respect to complaint 2022-01.
Okay, so, and I'm just trying to see what you've covered here because I wrote notes beforehand, so I could kind of see what I needed to still ask. Was there, you know what? Was there any issue with the complaint? You know what, I'm not even gonna ask anymore. I'm just gonna leave it at that because if I ask, I'm kind of scared I'm gonna put out something that maybe I shouldn't. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. We just know at this point, the complaint has not been heard. And that's it.
Yes, the complaint 2022, as I mentioned, has been suspended because there's another legal matter ongoing which addresses and deals with the same subject matter. So we've suspended pursuant to our obligations under the complaint protocol and under the Municipal Act. Now, our report does detail two other matters that are more of a historic nature. One was a complaint from 2019 that at the time we ruled we had no jurisdiction over because it was brought outside of the strict limitation period by the town's code of conduct. This year,
And can I ask you, what is the limitation period?
it has been amended. It is now 6 months. The new code of conduct sets out a 6-month period.
And the previous code of conduct?
There was a 6-week limitation, strict limitation. This new code of conduct also provides some authority to the Integrity Commissioner to consider matters that may relate to a delay.
Which are?
They're subject to the unique circumstances raised by the individual in question.
Can I ask what they are?
They're not laid out in the code. It's set out within the Integrity Commissioner's jurisdiction. I can certainly cover this in our training session as well, if that would be helpful, because I will be going through the detailed provisions of the code.
I would, yes, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to know, because I'm trying to understand, we went from a 6-week, you're saying 6-week time period for a code of conduct complaint to a 6-month. That's a big stretch, right? Like that's a huge. So, and the original code was not retroactive.
Point of order, Chair, this isn't on the report.
Right. So, Councillor Henry, sorry, we're gonna have to keep it focused to the report. We do have a meeting with the IC later on this week. You can ask a lot of these questions then.
This part wasn't on the report?
Your questioning right now is not, you're asking specific details.
In the report, I can see it here. It's in the report.
Right, but if you could just kind of keep questions to the report in terms of what is your question specifically without.
My question is, like, why did we go from a 6-week limit to a 6-month limit? Can I ask that? Because that is in the report. It states 6 weeks.
Director Cooper?
Yes, thank you. I can answer that question. So at the time that we first developed our code of conduct and had the 6-week limitation period, that was the norm amongst codes of conduct in the province at the time. It was, I think, loosely modeled after the 6-week limitation in the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, which still remains. And then when we did our 5-year review of the council code of conduct, part of that exercise involves benchmarking our code of conduct against what are sort of considered to be like the best models in the sector at that time. And when we did that benchmarking, we determined that the new norm is 6 months. And so we amended the code accordingly. And that change was supported by John Mascaron, who was our Integrity Commissioner at the time.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to ask. Like this.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what I wanted to know. That's what I was kind of getting at. That's fine. That's all my questions for now. I'll cover everything else when we have our training session.
Thank you, Councillor Henry.
Thank you.
Any other members of council have any questions? Then with that, Ms. Gowan, thank you very much for your presentation. Just for official sakes, we'll need a mover to move the report of the Integrity Commissioner. I have Regional Councilor Crawford. Any questions or comments? Call to vote. All in favor?
Just question, Chair.
Oh, question, excuse me. Yes, Mayor
For
Collier.
the clerk, when are we going to be reviewing the process as far as complaints going forward? It's something we reviewed before. I did bring an amendment to try and have a deposit added unsuccessfully. When is that coming back again, please?
Sure. So we do a full-scale review of our code of conduct every 5 years. We just completed it, the last one, I believe, in 2021. So it would be another 3 years until we proactively undertake a fulsome review of the code and the complaints process. But if there was a desire among council to revisit elements of that process sometime sooner, it could be done by way of notice of motion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Call to vote. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. Thank you again, Ms. Gowan.
Thank you very much.
So moving backwards then, we're on to the consent agenda. We have items 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 pulled by Mayor Collier. So we'll start with item 4.1, LIS 2023-02, the 2022 Municipal and School Board Elections Debrief Assessment. Mayor Collier?
Chair. Let me just find my question. So page 17, the candidate event program. We open this up to the public this time round, and instead of us managing these and putting on candidate debates, we opened it up. When we budgeted for 10, we had 5. What are the plans going forward for these in future elections, please?
The clerk or Jason or Nicole, who wants to tackle this one?
Jason, go ahead, please.
Through the chair to Mayor Collier. Having completed this kind of first round of candidate event programs, certainly this was a bit of a learning opportunity for the town. We hadn't kind of undertaken this program in the past. And so certainly in advance of the next election, one of the things that we are looking at is revisiting that program and understanding what has worked, what hasn't worked, and then making adjustments to respond to the needs of the community. As highlighted, I think in the report, a couple of the things that we are thinking about is refocusing this program to be specific to town of Ajax council races. That doesn't kind of entirely respond to how do we get greater uptake or greater engagement in this particular program. But certainly there's a number of opportunities that we're looking at ahead of the next election in terms of revisions to the program to hopefully make it a bit more popular and get more community interest in this opportunity.
Okay, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because I no disrespect intended to anybody, but I think these are too important to be subject to a learning curve. And candidates get one choice in some cases, whether they're going to win or lose. And debates are a very important way of showing who knows what and who doesn't. And that, I'm afraid, wasn't, no disrespect to the groups that put these on, but that was not able to be clearly shown in a number of the races. I mean, a meet and greet, I'm sorry, just doesn't do it. I don't know. I'd like to hear what my fellow councilors have to say. The other thing I would like to say is in the mayor's debates, you know, the organizer does great work in the community, but asking questions on healthcare and provincial issues during a mayor's debate, the things are not under our mandate, isn't good. And then, you know, making changes on the fly, like we're not going to allow closing remarks all of a sudden. Like these are, I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable. I think these do need to come back in-house and be managed properly. I think they're too important. And the other piece is, I mean, we put aside $10,000. Only 3 groups took that up. We need to be having these and having them done right. I'm not saying they weren't done right, but having them done, I guess, more focused, I'll call it, in the particular wards, so the candidates have the proper opportunity to kind of show their stuff and you know, earn those votes. I just had one other question to the timing. I understand when the votes are tabulated, and I'm glad we were the first ones to show the votes in the region, but I understand that, didn't the website go down or something?
Yeah,
There
through the
was a
chair.
delay?
Yeah, through the chair to Mayor Collier. One of the things that we had planned as part of the election was having a dedicated mini site stood up to publicize our results to the community. And it appears that when the service vendor was undertaking some work to implement that redirect, for some reason or another, it actually took the entire ajax.ca website down. We certainly had alternatives in place, and so we used our election.ajax.ca mini site and publicized results there. And we also made use of social media to get those results out. Certainly was not an ideal circumstance, but it was also a challenge that was faced by a number of other municipalities, both in Durham region and across the province.
Okay, so what is being done to make sure the Ajax site isn't going to be susceptible to that in future elections?
Yeah, so that's going to form, through the chair, that's going to form part of our planning ahead of the 2026 election to make sure that if such an instance does reoccur, then we have alternative strategies identified ahead of time in place to mitigate the impacts of such a result.
Okay. Thank you for answering my questions, Chair. I'm happy to move this at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. We have Councillor Tyler Moore next. You're on mute, Councillor Tyler Moore. You're on mute.
Oh, I apologize. Last week I wasn't on mute when I sneezed, so I'll take this over that. Yeah, I watched that. My family made fun of me. Back to the task at hand. Thank you, Chair, and through you to Mr. McWilliam. Yeah, I mean, I concur with pretty much everything the mayor just said. I can tell you that our Ward 1 meet and greet, I can save you the study. There was that many people there on this hand. That wasn't, you know, people that were working on the elections, our friends, family. So the folks that put it on do amazing work in the community, absolutely. So I'm formally asking if we can go back to a debate format that, frankly, I think we should like fall under our umbrella at TOA, since it's our jobs, it's our functions that people are asking us about. And I thought it was a little bit strange, actually, that somebody, you know, a third party would be doing it. And then even when Ajax Pickering Board of Trade was doing it, to me, they've got a bit more of a local interest umbrella. Again, the work that the people that put it on do in the community, that's a different subject. That's amazing. But for this, yes, I would ask that, in my opinion, the town takes over this and that we have a proper debate format, get in there and get it done. So hopefully we can see that. And hopefully we can see information on that long before the next election. Thank you. And commitment on that.
Thank you, Councillor Tyler Moore.
Through Chair Lee, if I might, to Councillor Tyler Morin. Certainly, that's one of the things we did hear from the community and from organizers, was the fact that the meet and greet format wasn't particularly rewarding, I guess, I would say. And certainly one of the things that we will be looking at ahead of the next election is refocusing the program to really focus on debates. We know that there's a lot of community desire for those types of events. And so that's certainly one thing that we are considering, and we'll bring that forward for council's consideration at the appropriate time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Henry, you had your hand up. Did you wish to speak on this?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I do apologize. My computer just shut down. I had to go on my phone. So with regards to the debates, I do agree with the mayor. Too important to leave debates to become not debates and just have basically like a ward showing or ward meeting. There should be debates all the time. But I do have questions with regards to, or concerns with regards to having it brought in-house. It was always my understanding the reason it wasn't brought in-house is because we didn't want the appearance, not that it would happen, but the appearance of staff swaying it one way or another, which wouldn't happen because, you know, staff really doesn't care about those things, quite frankly. But it's the appearance of it. So I would like to see that something is set up going forward where debates are mandatory or at least held in every ward, but perhaps by groups that might be more inclined or more able to hold the debates on a variety of different subject matters, not just on the unsheltered or one specific subject matter. That's all I had to say with regards to that.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Councillor, or no, excuse me, Christy McLarty, did you want to speak on this? I see your hand up.
Through the chair, thank you very much, Councillor Lee, and to Councillor Henry. I just wanted to clarify that yes, we did organize these up into the last election. So these were always done in-house, and we were one of the first municipalities or the first municipalities to start doing so. And since then, many have followed suit. That being said, the last, the election, I think it was 2018 to 2022, we did hire outside facilitator to facilitate the debate so that that person was impartial and followed a script per se. I think that I think the reason why we changed was because we did get a lot of requests from community organizations for in-kind facilities and support for their debates. And on top of that, the perception was there. The perception is real and something that we do have to handle and deal with. But like anything we do, there's always ways to be transparent and communicate process and how these debates will be facilitated. So I think what Jace, the deputy clerk, was communicating is accurate. We just need more time to compare the pros and cons of the last round, and then go back to our previous programs and think if there's something in the middle that we can bring forward back to council. But I think today we are hearing all councillors that we need to look at the program again and come back before the election.
100%. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Region Councillor Dyes.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question. I guess I'm looking on page 14 where it goes into discussions about opportunities to vote in long-term care and retirement homes. And there's 5 of them listed. And I'm wondering, were some of these new facilities that were put on this list?
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Dyes. I believe there's one new addition to this particular list, and that would be Lakeridge Gardens. That's a new facility that opened, I think, in the fall of the spring or the fall of 2022. So that is a newer location. And then just in terms of the selection of those particular facilities, I believe that we may have had some expanded opportunities in the past. But the Municipal Elections Act is very clear in that the municipality needs to offer these services to facilities that are licensed by the province of Ontario. And so that's why the list of facilities that you see in the report is the list of facilities where we offer these services.
So we get these 5 mandated homes that get in-house voting, so to speak, yet the 3 seniors buildings that we've had historically here in Ajax forever in the south no longer receive that. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have kind of focused our efforts on those where we do need to offer these services as required by provincial law.
You understand, yeah, I get it's provincial law, but you understand that these are not-for-profit housing corporations for seniors. So I guess my concern is it's been there historically and it's taken away. And I appreciate your report. And I know that online electronic voting is becoming more comfortable for people and more popular, particularly if you're traveling or whatever. For not-for-profit housing and for seniors in particular, there's an affordability issue here. And the affordability issue is in being able to afford the technology and access to the internet. So it's more difficult for them. These are people that have always participated all their life in voting, and now their only option is telephone. And that can be problematic too. So I know I heard firsthand, so you've reported in your report all the statistics of this election. And I can tell you firsthand, I heard loud and clear that this was not appreciated from that community. People who live right next door to one of our voting stations at the Ajax Community Center were not able to go because they would need transit to get there, special transit to get there. So there was a whole bunch of issues, and they can also get some support also when they go into those. So I just wanted to share that. It's something to think about when you review this next time. The other thing I heard loud and clear at the doors also was the fact that people were really not in tune with what was happening, that there was an election. And I know part of that was COVID, but they did not know there was election. They count on seeing signs and they didn't see any signs. And they were very frustrated that they'd gone to Pickering or Whitby and seen signs. And that's how they found out there was a municipal election. So I think I'm not the only one that heard that at the doors. And after a few, you start to go, okay, this is an issue. And it was loud and clear throughout the election period that people were unhappy with that. And I know you can't win on this one. However, it's also important, I think, for new candidates to get their name out there. I think that's very important. So we can still regulate size and on how they're placed on corners. But I think it's important that we review that as well, because it gives access to people and gets their name out there. So those were the two things that I heard numerous times over and over again. So thank you.
Thank you, Regional Councillor Dyes. Anyone else like to speak on this? Seeing none, then we have this moved by Mayor Collier. Any questions? Call to vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that passes. Moving on to item 4.2, LIS 2023-04, electronic participation policy. I believe Mayor Collier about this.
Right, let me just find my questions. It's not coming up. 1 second. There we go. No, I don't have any questions on this, Chair.
Oh, okay. Can I get a mover then?
Actually, sorry, I do. Sorry,
Well,
incorrect.
Councillor Tyler, we'll move this at the appropriate time. Mayor Collier.
Just the through you to the clerk, the regional software is amazing. And I think you have viewed it and felt it was pretty good as well. Going forward, is that the route that we're looking to take? And is the equipment that we have and what we have in this policy in line with that? Because that allows us to control everything seamlessly, whether you are in attendance or not, physically.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor. Yes, we have now procured that software. We're working hard to get it fully configured and integrated with our hardware in time for the April meeting cycle. So we'll provide you an update on that by email just as soon as possible. But I agree with you. We've vetted it out. It is an excellent piece of software. It's going to work perfectly with the hardware that we've just put in the chambers. And as you know, 4 members of our 7-member council already use it at the region. So it should be a seamless experience for everybody, whether you're participating at home
It's
or
customizable as well to our specific need, which is good.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Moved by Councillor Tyler Morin. Does anybody else have any questions? Call to vote then. All in favor? Opposed? And that passes. Moving right along to item 4.3, which is OES 2023-03, Contract Award, Annandale Trail Design Services. Mayor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. Just through you to Mr. Meredith. I just wonder, we approved another section that had washed out last year. And I just want to confirm this is not that same part of that same award, that same section. This says this is a new one across the Annandale lands.
I don't believe it's Mr. Meredith. I believe we have someone else from operations. I think he's on vacation.
Oh, that's fine. It just says D Meredith on there.
I can take this through the
Is that
chair.
Renil? Great,
Yeah, this
thank
is
you.
Renil, sorry. No, this is not the same, it's not the same project. It's a completely different project. The trail that's being repaired, the one that was washed out is currently in detailed design and will be constructed in the summertime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Could I get a mover? Oh, Regional Councilor Dies, I believe you have a question.
Thank you, if I may. So the part of the trail that washed out, are you speaking about the trail to the south of that area?
Yes, that's correct through the chair.
So when you repair that, will it also give us a connection? Are we going to get that south connection to this new trail?
Yes, so as a part of the detailed design, we've instructed the TRCA who's doing the detailed design to make sure that there's a connection in place so that when they come with the Annandale Trail in the future, that they wouldn't have to disturb this area that they're doing now and they can connect into it without any disturbance.
Because we're going to get that trail on the Annandale property up to Miller's Trail and up north, hopefully, but we still have no connection from the south, which is, I think, kind of problematic because there's a lot of people that come on the trail from the waterfront and tourism, that kind of thing, and want to come into town. So I'm hoping that gets done sooner than later. So when do you anticipate that? Sorry?
The Church Street washout, that's going to start in the summertime. Is that the one you're referring?
You're talking about the Church Street, so it's not the south one then.
No, you're
So we
talking
had a trail existing from Rotary Park that comes up Westney Road and could connect to this trail on Annandale. But we're unable to use that part of that trail. I'm just wondering if there are plans to hook that up and when that will happen. I know that we purchased a property in order to do that.
Let me see, Andrew, Mr. Jackson's on the call. Maybe he can, any comments on this?
Through the chair to Regional Councilor Dies. Yes, the trail section that you're referring to is the Duffins Trail, which
Yep.
runs south of Bailey towards Rotary. There's a section of trail that was closed a number of years ago due to encroachment onto developed land. I'm not aware of the exact status of the land ownership. I have not been informed that that land or portions of that land were purchased, but the strategy is that once we're given permission to rebuild that section of trail, we will do so through the capital budget process.
And then there is one more parcel of land that's next to St. Nadellus, where there used to be a small bridge. So that part of the trail is not connected either. So I'd appreciate it if maybe you can connect with me later and let me know what's being done about that, because it's been left for many, many years, yet we're missing this piece and we're going on to the next piece. So I'd appreciate that because it makes riding on Westney very dangerous. So I'd appreciate it if we'll hook up later and talk about that. Thank you.
Through the chair, I will definitely do that.
Thank you.
Regional Councilor Dies, do you want to move this report? Regional Councilor Dies, did you want to move this? Yes, great. So moved by Regional Councilor Dies. Any more questions? We will call to vote then. All in favor? Opposed? And that passes. There are no presentations, so I believe we'll move into closed session. Can I get a motion to move to closed session? We have Councilor Bauer. All in favor? Opposed? And clerk.
And we are live.
So I believe, clerk, we have to ratify 7.2, 7.3. Is that how that works? Oh, there it is. Never mind. So we have nominations to the various germ committees. Those are the recommendations. Can we have a mover, please? We have Regional Councillor Dyes. Any questions? Call to vote then. All in favor? That passes. Now we have the next one. These are the membership for the Ajax committees. Need a mover? We have Councillor Henry. Any questions? All in favor? All right. And last but not least, the motion to adjourn. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Bauer, any questions? All in favor? Good night, folks. You've been a great audience. Don't forget to tip your waiter. Try the veal. It's delicious.
Listen to this guy. Good job.
job.
Ken.